The month of August is full of thunderstorms where I live, which inspired this story. Thunderstorms have always fascinated me. When I was younger, I would sit by the window with my grandfather, watching the lightning dance across the sky while the rain pounded against the glass. The scent of damp earth mixed with his cologne, a deep, musky aroma with hints of sandalwood and citrus, still lingers in my memory. To this day, whenever I catch a similar fragrance, I am transported back to those quiet moments with him. That night, the air was thick with humidity, and the sky growled with distant thunder. I was alone in my apartment, the occasional flicker of lightning illuminating the dimly lit living room. I had just settled in with a cup of tea and my laptop when the first real crack of thunder split the sky, shaking the windows. The lights flickered, but they held. I chuckled to myself, embracing the eerie atmosphere. I had always loved storms. Then came the knocking. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but it came again, 3 slow, deliberate knocks at my door. I glanced at the clock. 11:42 p.m. Too late for a visitor. My stomach tightened as I approached the peephole. The hallway light outside had flickered off, shrouding the entrance in darkness. I held my breath, waiting, listening. Another knock, louder this time. I whispered to myself, "It's just someone lost or confused. Nothing to be afraid of." Then a voice, low, hoarse, almost a whisper.
"Let me in. I need to use your phone."
A chill ran down my spine. My fingers hovered over the deadbolt, instinctively double-checking that it was locked. My gut told me not to respond. So I stepped back, moving as silently as I could. My heart was hammering in my chest. I turned off the living room lamp, plunging the apartment into darkness, hoping whoever was outside would assume no one was home. Then came the sound of scratching. Slow, deliberate, fingernails dragging down the wood of my door. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling, and typed out a message to my friend Dan. "Someone's at my door. Won't leave. I'm freaking out." No response. The storm must have knocked out the signal. The scratching stopped. Silence. I exhaled, forcing myself to relax. Maybe they had left. Maybe. A loud thud against the door. I stumbled back, stifling a scream. Another thud. The door handle rattled violently. Whoever was out, there was no longer asking. They were trying to get in. I grabbed the nearest heavy object, a metal lamp, and held it tightly. My legs felt weak, my stomach in knots. A new sound filled the room, and it took me a moment to realize what was footsteps, but not from the hallway, from inside my apartment. A creak on the wooden floor behind me. My body froze. My eyes darted toward the hallway, leading to my bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. I hadn't left it that way. Lightning flashed, illuminating the mirror in the hallway, and in that split second, I saw it. A figure, tall and gaunt, standing just inside my bedroom, barely visible in the reflection. My wife, Emily, and I recently moved to a remote place, a small wooden house nestled deep in the forest, surrounded by dense trees and rolling hills. This place was perfect for us to relax and escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The little cabin had only one bedroom, a living room and a kitchen, but it was enough for a short getaway. When we arrived late in the afternoon, the sky had already turned overcast. The wind was picking up, and the air felt different. But I didn't think much of it, since I've always loved thunderstorms. They make me feel truly alive, as if everything is being cleansed by the torrential rain and the rumble of thunder. We unpacked, cooked dinner, and then sat outside on the porch under a canopy, looking up at the dark sky, waiting for the storm to arrive. But something in the air tonight made me feel uneasy. "How do you feel, Emily?" I asked. Emily just smiled lightly, but her eyes narrowed as if searching for something in the dark. Maybe it's just for days, I avoided being alone in my apartment after dark. Every time the wind howled against the windows, my skin prickled. Sleep came in short, restless bursts. Every creak of the old floorboards, every whisper wind to the cracks, sent my pulse skyrocketing. I convinced myself it was just paranoia, that I had let my mind run wild that night. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. Then, 3 nights later, it happened again. It was nearly 2 a.m. when I woke up suddenly. The air was heavy, charged with static. Thunder rumbled in the distance. But something else had woken me. Something subtle, almost imperceptible. I lay still listening. A soft rustling. A quiet scrape, like fabric sliding against wood. I turned my head toward the bedroom door. My breath caught in my throat. It was open, just a crack. But I had closed it before going to bed. I was sure of it. Slowly, carefully, I sat up. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure whoever, or whatever, was out there could hear it. I reached for my phone, but the battery was dead. A soft creak from the hallway. A shadow shifting just beyond the doorway. I swallowed hard, fighting the rising panic. I needed to act. Now, in one motion, I threw off the covers and lunged for the lamp on my nightstand, gripping it like a weapon. I stood, bracing myself. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then, the door creaked open another inch. I snapped. I slammed the lamp down onto the floor, the crash echoing through the apartment. "Get out!" I screamed, my voice shaking. Silence. Then footsteps, rapid, retreating. The bedroom door slammed shut. I waited, listening to my own ragged breathing. Minutes passed. Then, cautiously, I crept toward the door, gripping the lamp tightly. I yanked it open and flipped on the hallway light. Nothing. But my front door, the one I had triple-checked before bed, stood wide open, rain blowing into the doorway. I never spent another night alone in that apartment. My wife, Emily, and I recently moved to a remote place, a small wooden house nestled deep in the forest. Surrounded by dense trees and rolling hills, this place was perfect for us to relax and escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The little cabin had only one bedroom, a living room and a kitchen, but it was enough for a short getaway. When we arrived late in the afternoon, the sky had already turned overcast. The wind was picking up, and the air felt different. But I didn't think much of it, since I've always loved thunderstorms. They make me feel truly alive, as if everything is being cleansed by the torrential rain and the rumble of thunder. We unpacked, cooked dinner, and then sat outside on the porch under a canopy, looking up at the dark sky, waiting for the storm to arrive. But something in the air tonight made me feel uneasy. "How do you feel, Emily?" I asked. Emily just smiled lightly, but her eyes narrowed as if searching for something in the dark. Maybe it's just a storm, but I don't like the sound of the wind. We sat silently, enjoying the grand scene of nature, but there's an odd feeling in the air, a feeling of not just quiet, but a loneliness that sent shivers down my spine. We were sitting inside, having dinner, the dim light of the oil lamp casting shadows on Emily's face. The rain began to fall heavily, then gradually turned into a ferocious storm. The thunder crashed loudly, making the windows rattle. The theory of safety in the midst of nature began to unravel as the constant roar of thunder and the enveloping darkness overtook everything. "Listen, do you feel something's off?" I asked. Emily looked at me, her eyes clearly worried. "I'm not sure, but it feels like something's wrong." We decided to step outside onto the porch to enjoy the storm while staying safe. But when I turned around from a corner of the garden, I heard a voice call out, "Is anyone there? I need help." The voice echoed through the wind, but it didn't sound like someone in distress. I stepped out the door, but all I could see was pitch-black darkness and the whistling wind. The strange feeling still lingered, but I decided not to say anything further. It could just be a lost person or someone disoriented in the storm. I turned back to look at Emily, who seemed uneasy. I didn't want to make her scared, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. Another call came, this time seeming much closer, as though it was right near us. I stood there, alone in the dark, my eyes scanning the garden nervously. Suddenly, a flash of lightning lit up the entire area, and in that brief moment, I saw a figure standing still in the woods, unmoving, just standing there like a ghost. It was a man wearing a white shirt, standing still. That eerie silence made me feel fear spreading through my body. I quickly turned and went back inside, locking the door behind me. "Did you see anyone?" Emily asked when she saw the worry on my face. "No, don't worry." I tried to reassure her, but I knew I was hiding an uneasy feeling that I couldn't explain. I couldn't understand why I had such a feeling. Was it the storm, or was it that figure? I truly couldn't say, but there was something making me feel like we were being watched. We both sat back in the living room, silent. No one spoke. The thunder continued to echo throughout the space, and the rain poured down relentlessly, but the feeling of unease still hung heavily in the air. Suddenly, the sound of a knock at the door broke the silence, as if someone was trying to enter the house. Emily looked at me, and I returned her gaze, my hand tightening into a fist. Who would be here at this hour? I thought. I stood up and walked over to the door, looking out the window, but saw no one. Then the knock came again, this time louder and more urgent. I didn't know what to do, so I stood there, pretending to ignore it. But then I heard a voice. "I need to use the phone. I'm stuck out here in the rain." The voice was weak, but something about it felt wrong. My heart started to race, and I quickly locked the door again and told Emily, "Don't go outside. There's someone at the door." The knocking at the door didn't stop. It was as if someone was trying to force their way in. My mind was screaming at me not to open the door, but something inside me couldn't bear it any longer. The door began to shake violently, and then the knocking grew more rough and angry. I stood frozen, too terrified to move, waiting for something to happen. "Open the door." The voice from outside, now angry, trying to break the door down. Emily started trembling, and I felt fear take over. There was no more time to think. I decided to run out to the back door and open the garage door, hoping I could escape the house. When I opened the garage door, the slow creak of the door opening felt deafening in the night. I crawled through and ran, as if death itself was chasing me. The rain still fell heavily, and the wind howled around me. When I reached our neighbor's house, I knocked on the door, hoping someone would open it and help me. The neighbor, Julian, opened the door, and I collapsed into his arms, sobbing, begging for help. The next day, as the sun rose, we left the cabin. But the strange feeling never faded, and we were certain that the storm had not just brought rain and wind, but also something far more terrifying, something unseen.